Hello and welcome to Sparks Live with me, Chris Baber. As you may know, I'm a chef and I work with M&S to create delicious family meals using the best quality ingredients from M&S. And I tell you what, if you're cooking along at home tonight, you're in for a real treat. We're going to do my spin on a traditional Chinese clay pot rice. It's sticky, sweet, and most importantly, delicious. And it is also going to be a great recipe for me to talk about ways to use up leftovers that you've got in the fridge at home, because this week is, what's the name of the week again? It's Food Awareness, Action Against Food Awareness Week, and 9.5 million tons of food waste is produced in the UK every year. That's enough to fill 4,000 Olympic swimming pools. So I'm going to show you some top tips and tricks to make sure we're using up the best of our herbs, our fruits, our veggies, everything you've got in the fridge at home. I'm going to show you how to make the most of it. Anyway, we're going to pop the ingredients up on the screen for you now if you need to have a look. You should have your chicken already chopped up. So if you haven't got your chicken thighs chopped, all you need to do is grab some kitchen scissors or a knife, cut them into sort of bite-sized pieces, and then we will be pretty much good to go. So let's jump on to the cooking. So first thing we've got is our rice. We've got 300 grams of basmati rice in here, which I've rinsed off under a sieve. And the reason we rinse our rice is to get any of the starch off there. And then that means it's not going to all stick together. We get those beautiful fluffy grains of rice. So if you're running away, give your rice a quick wash under the tap until the water runs clear. Don't forget, while you're doing that, the chat bar is open tonight. If you've got any burning cooking questions, or if you want to find out more about using up waste, well, food that would go to waste in your house, or any vegetables that are looking a bit sorry for themselves, how you can incorporate them into your food, please do get in touch via the chat bar. Now, first thing we need to do is get our saucepan or oven-proof pan on the heat. We're going to kick things straight off with the rice. We take our rinsed rice and we just pop it straight into our saucepan, okay? And then we can go in with 600 milliliters of cold water. And you can turn the heat quite high at this point. And we're going to bring it sort of up to a boil, and then we'll reduce the heat down and simmer it for about 8 minutes. We don't need to cook the rice all the way through, because this will go in the oven and it will continue to cook in there. Now, while the rice is on, I'll have a little run through. So we've got our chicken, and if you are using chicken tonight, fantastic. If you are going veggie tonight, top tip is to use an aubergine, and just basically cut it up into similar sized pieces as the chicken. So what I'm going to do is just pop a little bit in with the chicken tonight, just so you can see what's going on. I'll be taking this home. That'll be going in my fridge for dinner tomorrow, that piece. Just roughly dice that up. And I tell you what, if you've got a pepper or an aubergine in the fridge and you are doing it with chicken tonight, please do feel free to throw in a bit of veg. That is what it's all about at home, making sure we are not wasting anything. The easiest way for us all to reduce our carbon footprint is to actually just stop throwing food waste in the bin. Now, frying pan on for our chicken. You just need a splash of sunflower or vegetable oil will be fine in there. And we get that pan nice and hot. And ends like this. If you've got room in the garden or even on the windowsill, start composting. Make sure we're not throwing things just into the bin. If you do have the option to do a bit of compost, great. And then you can even use that to grow your own veggies or herbs in the garden. Okay, let me see. Is there any questions coming in? Julie's asking, will I put the recipe online? I will be putting the recipe on the M&S website. It'll be available straight after this. And also, this was on recipe cards in stores as a feed your family for £12 recipe. So if you've got these at home, collect them up, create yourself a little recipe book. Okay, so heat is on. And Kerry is asking, why don't I use brown rice as it's healthier? The cooking time. So brown rice, if you wanted to use brown rice, it would just mean you'd have to cook the brown rice down for about 20-25 minutes. The beauty of using the white rice, the basmati or long grain, simply we can get it cooked quicker and get dinner on the family, dinner for the family ready in record time. So if you want to check if your pan is hot enough, take the chicken, and at this point you can season it. If you want to add a pinch of salt and pepper to it, feel free. Just to your own taste. a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt. And to check if the pan's hot enough for the chicken, all you need to do, just drop one little piece in there. Let's have a little look. And it will just start to sizzle. Sorry, a bit of a awkward angle there, but it'll start to sizzle away. And if your chicken is sizzling, you can throw it all in the pan. And we'll just start to cook that off. And it'll just be about 5 minutes or so. We're going to seal and caramelize the edges of that chicken. And that's going to create some color. More color means more flavor. And I'm going to throw in these bits of aubergine as well, just to demonstrate how that might work. We'll just keep an eye on it. Around 5 minutes already, we can see we're starting to get a little bit of color on the outside of there. So you want your pan super, super hot. Have a little look at the rice. Still just waiting for that to come up to heat. Now, mushrooms. As the name suggests, chestnut mushrooms, they have a nutty flavor to them. But you could try this with different types of mushrooms. You could use wild mushrooms. You could use shiitake mushrooms. And I'm going to cut them into quarters because it's going to keep them quite substantial. Almost similar sized pieces to our chicken. And that was 600 milliliters of water that we put in with the rice there tonight. Patricia's asking, do we salt the rice water? That is completely up to you. If you want to salt it, you can. However, we are going to make a sauce which is quite high in, well, not quite high, but it does contain salt. We've got our oyster sauce, which is naturally salty, and our soy sauce in there. So for me, I just like to keep the rice just plain as it is. And you could use different grains. You could use spelt in there. You could use orzo if you wanted to. But I think the traditional way to do it is with rice. And a little bit of a background on clay pot chicken. They've been cooking in clay pots in China for about 20,000 years. And a traditional clay pot is cooked in a clay pot over a charcoal heat, really, really hot. And because the clay is porous, it allows that charcoal flavor almost to penetrate through and into the rice. And the one thing we won't get tonight that you'd get in, say, Hong Kong if you ordered this in a traditional clay pot is a crispy base, which you get, and it's actually they control and they turn the clay pot around on the charcoal to get this really crispy layer. And it's really popular in the southern sort of provinces of China like Hong Kong, and there'll be little restaurants like street food pop-ups that specialize just in a clay pot rice, but they might have up to, say, 60 toppings, something a bit more out there for our palate, something like salted fish, or Chinese sausage and cheese is actually quite popular at the minute out there, I believe. But you can really play around with it. Once you've got this method, you can add whatever you want onto the topping. But chicken, for me, delicious in this sticky sauce that we're going to make. Slice through your mushrooms. And this recipe as well, if you make too much, make sure you save it. You could chill it in the fridge tonight, have it for your lunch the next day. You could have it cold, or you could reheat it, or you could even pop this in the freezer if you wanted to. I would just say reheating frozen food, just make sure, for me, I would defrost it in the fridge overnight, and then I would reheat it until it was piping hot. And don't be afraid of sort of reheating rice. I think there's a big thing, especially in the UK, about rice. If you're anything like, well, I think a lot of households, you make too much rice, it either goes straight into the bin out of the saucepan, or it goes into a bowl in the fridge with good intent. Then the next lunchtime, you think, oh, I'll just get rid of it. I think the key thing with rice is to remember that in countries like China, they use a lot of chilled rice for dishes. So an egg fried rice is actually made using cold rice. You don't use hot rice. You use rice that was cooked the day before. So you just got to get comfortable reheating rice. As long as it is piping hot, it's perfectly safe. If you want to chill it down, the easiest way to do that is to spread it on a baking tray, pop it in the window as soon as it's cold, get it in the fridge or the freezer, and that is more than, well, it is safe to do, and I do it all the time. So just get comfortable doing it. And see, we're starting to get a little bit of color there on the chicken now, just sealing it off. And then we're going to drop in all of the mushrooms, okay? In they go. Let's have a little look at that. Also, just to note, the rice has come to the boil there. You can see it's just come up to the boil. we can just reduce the heat to its lowest setting now. Have a look at the watch. We'll give it about 8 minutes. Okay. In they go. And Tori's asking, why have we used chicken thigh over chicken breast? For me, more flavor. The chicken thigh has a higher fat content, and it's got that slightly richer flavor to it. By all means, you could use chicken breast. It's slightly leaner, so there's going to be less fat in there. And you could definitely do this with seafood and things as well. Some prawns would be delicious. You could even use cod, something like that. You can really play around, or you could even use lamb or pork steaks would be delicious. The sauce we're about to make is super simple, and it really lends itself well to any protein. Even tofu would be fantastic. So we'll get on to our sauce. Grab your little mixing bowl. We're going to start off with our oyster sauce, okay? So you want about 100 milliliters of oyster sauce. And this bottle's 150, so you can just kind of eyeball it. 2/3 of the bottle go in. If you like it extra saucy, or if you're a bit extra saucy, you can put a little bit more in. And if you're going veggie tonight, I'd recommend a hoisin sauce instead, okay? It'll have a slightly sweeter flavor. It's probably going to go even more sticky, but hoisin sauce, great alternative. Sesame oil. Now, for me, I love sesame oil. It's brilliant for sauces and dressings. The one thing you don't do with sesame oil is fry with it. Sesame oil has a low smoking point. That means it can burn at a low temperature and it'll go bitter. So dressings, sauces, perfect. 1.5 tablespoons of that. It has such an amazing fragrance, and this for me is a stock cupboard essential. I think just adding it into any of these Asian inspired or Chinese dishes really just elevates the flavor, and it's all about that fragrance. Next up, bit of soy sauce. This is our saltiness. So we were talking about seasoning the rice. I want to keep that plain because I want the sauce to drip through into the rice, and this will actually season the rice. 2 tablespoons of that going. And you can have a look at your rice now. Everyone's rice is going to cook at a different time depending on what pan you've got it in. But what we're looking for is for that just to pretty much take on all of the water. Mine just needs another minute or so now, okay? And next up into the sauce, a couple of teaspoons of sugar. And you really do just need a couple of teaspoons to balance out the saltiness of the oyster sauce. And sugar is actually used quite a lot in Chinese cookery. We can stir that together. And that really is all there is to it. So that's our sauce done. And the one thing you need to do now is get your garlic, ginger and chili in with the chicken. That is all pre-chopped. That's my speedy shortcut in the kitchen. In it goes. And talking of garlic, I am going to show you how to prep garlic up a little bit later on, because that is the second down from how to prep an onion. I think garlic's probably the thing most people want to know about. In it goes. We'll just give it another minute or so just to cook through. And this won't cook all the way through. We just want to start that cooking process off because it is going to finish up in the oven. Okay. A little tidy up here. See how our rice is looking. That is perfect now. So you can see there's little holes starting to form in the top of the rice. You can see the steam is coming through and the rice is sort of nice and individual on the grain there. We'll just keep it on the heat. It's not going to do it any harm. Have a look at that chicken. And just cutting the chicken up into these small pieces really does make 6 chicken thighs go a long, long way. And Bev, I'm just reading the screen there. Bev says, hi from Canada. So amazing that we've got M&S customers all around the world joining in. If anyone is joining in tonight, please do tag me in your pictures. I was blown away with the amount of you that tagged me in that jambalaya last time. It's great to see you all cooking along at home. Okay. Now we just want to get our sauce. And you can see it's nice and glossy. And then we can pour this sauce straight into the chicken, okay? So in it goes. In and around the chicken, back on the heat, and we'll just give that a minute just to start warming it through. And also it'll help that sugar just dissolve. And we want to coat all of the chicken nicely in the sauce. You can see there. And there's some liquid that does come out of the chicken, okay? So that's why we don't need to add any extra water or anything to the sauce, because there's plenty of juice in those M&S Oakham chicken thighs. That's done. Let's have a little look at the rice. That's looking perfect now. So I'm going to turn the rice off the heat. The chicken, we can also turn that off the heat now as well. I mean, grab ourselves a large spoon. And all we need to do, really simple, just spoon that chicken, and I've got a bit of the aubergine in there as well, and the mushrooms over the top of the rice. And one way you can do this in some of the traditional clay pot methods is they would literally put the ingredients raw on top of the rice, but because the heat's different on the clay pot, they would just steam it through. However, this will continue to finish cooking and steam in the oven with all of these juices that are going to come out of the chicken. So just pour it all in there, all the juice, everything goes in like that. In we go, don't waste anything. Give it a little scatter around. And then all we need to do is just pop that into a preheated oven, 200 degrees, for about 20 minutes. Let's get that in there. Now, the one thing I haven't got is any oven gloves, and that is absolutely roasting. So while we source some oven gloves, I'm going to start talking about how to use up your herbs, some top tips and tricks on how to eliminate any food waste. So we're going to start with herbs. And I'll let you catch up. Mine isn't in the oven yet because I haven't got any gloves. But pop it in the oven. And it's going to take 20 minutes. And it'll just continue to cook through nicely. So for herbs, I want to show you how to turn these into herb ice cubes. This is a top tip on food waste. So I've got some lovely dill. I've got some parsley and coriander there. Now, ice cube tray. We've all got one of these. You're probably not even using it. But the best way to preserve the herbs, I think, how many times do we buy some herbs, we use half a bag, and then the other bit goes in the bin? It shouldn't be happening. So for me, I'm going to show you how to make a lovely little herb ice cube tray, and I'll also show you how to chop the herbs up properly as well. I've just found this little tea towel. That's going to assist me into the oven. Right, here we go. Bear with me a sec. And we'll see that chicken in about 20 minutes time, 200 degrees. And that's why we didn't need to cook the chicken through all the way on the hob, because it's going to continue in there. Okay. Now, onto the herbs. Let's start with this. We got some parsley. You just need to roll your herbs up into a tight ball. Okay, this is the best way. And with the soft herbs like parsley, coriander, and dill, I like to use the stalks. They are packed full of flavor. And you can see I'm just using my knuckle there as a guide, okay? And we can just chop through. And honestly, you buy the herbs, keep them fresh by putting them in the freezer. And you can just run the knife over the top like this, finely chop the herbs. And the best way to use these up is to, if you're doing a curry, a soup, or a stew, and it calls for fresh herbs, you can just jump out the freezer, pop in a herb ice cube, and you've got that instant hit of freshly chopped herbs. So in we go. We just fill up the tray. We'll just do a few there for you. Like this. And then you just pour a little bit of water in the top. I sound a bit daft. I'm teaching you how to make an ice cube. But at the end of the day, it's a great way that you wouldn't have thought of doing. Fill them up. Pop that into your freezer, then the next day you've got herb ice cubes. And also you think herbs, it's not a cheap product, and if you're continually buying them, it's not only the herb you're putting them in, but it's also money. So that's another way to think about it. Anyway, let's pop them in the freezer. And I want to talk about sort of making the most of your freezer. Now, chilies, here's a one for you. How many times do you buy a pack of 5 or 6 chilies? A recipe calls for one chili, you use it, and the rest of them start to look a bit sorry for themselves, and they end up probably in the bin, which is not where they should go. You can pop chilies in the freezer whole like this, and then what you can do is actually grate them on top of things, or you can just let them defrost. We're in a hot kitchen. They've been out of the freezer 10 minutes and they've already defrosted, and you can just chop them up as you would. Chuck them into your pastas, your curries, your soups, your stews. Perfect. Or my way to do it, if you're feeding a family and someone likes it spicy and maybe the kids aren't so keen on the heat, you can just drop the whole chili in, cook, say, a curry or a stew, whatever it might be, a bolognese or a chili con carne. And then at the end, the chili will be perfectly cooked. You can chop that up and actually just put it into whoever wants the spicy dinner. Okay, let's just move that. This will not be going in the bin. I'll be taking it home. Let's pop that in there. And again, I think it comes down to portion control and meal planning for when it comes to not putting food in the bin. I mean, in my house, in my kitchen, there generally isn't any leftovers because I shop smart. So I make a shopping list and a meal plan, and I generally only buy the ingredients that I need for those recipes. So that is the easiest way to not even to have to think about what to do with your waste, it's just not to create it in the first place. And the most commonly wasted foods are potatoes and bread especially is wasted in the freezer. Honestly, the best thing to do, you buy a beautiful loaf of sourdough, something from M&S. You can just cut it into slices, pop them in the freezer, and you can just toast it from frozen. Other ideas with your bread, like a lovely panzanella salad, which is literally just torn up bread, bit of red wine vinegar, maybe some red onions, some fresh tomatoes, loads of basil. Perfect for any herbs that are going out, parsley, basil, dill, and just mix it all through, and that's a lovely sort of Tuscan bread salad. Eggs can actually be frozen as well, believe it or not. You can pop them straight in the freezer, and out of the shell, and then also they just need to be kept at room temperature, anything below 20 degrees. Cheese can go in the freezer. Honestly, you need to start to love your freezer. Right, these are our herbs done. Now, spring onions, they're looking very pretty in a jar here. However, a good friend of mine, Emma, taught me this tip. You literally pop any spring onions root side down in the water, and they're going to continue to grow. How cool's that? So every week, just change the water, and then you'll notice them getting taller and taller. So a good one to do with the kids. Grow yourself some spring onions, and then you can just grab them when you need them. So I love that one. That's a fantastic tip. Now, on to garlic. That was something I wanted to demonstrate. Let me just clean this board down. So a bit more of a tip rather than a trick on how to save waste, but garlic, what to do with it, how to prep it. This is what we're going to do. 4 different ways with garlic. Number 1 is just how to break it down. Use the heel of your hand, and then you can just pop the cloves out, and you can roast garlic like this. And what I like to do if I'm doing like some roast potatoes or even like roast chicken, something like that, is literally just use the heel of your hand, give the clove just a little bash, just to crush it slightly. And that is going to sort of stay in the skin, and it'll roast, and it'll go really sticky and caramelized. It'll be absolutely delicious. Now, the next one, peeling garlic, okay? Best way to peel the garlic is grab your knife, hand on top of the knife, gentle tap down, and the skin will just pop off like this, okay? Let's get rid of this. And then I'm going to show you how to slice the garlic finely. So for fine slice, we can literally just run our knife, same as when we were doing the onions. You see that? There we go. You use your knuckle there as a guide. Slice through and just bring your finger back every time. Run your knife all the way along. So that's sliced garlic. Now, sliced garlic's perfect for things like pasta. You can drop that into the olive oil, and because it's in quite big pieces, it will just start to flavor the oil, which you're going to cook the rest of the ingredients in. And also, the bigger it is, the longer it's going to take to burn. So you can cook that for a little bit longer in the olive oil, and it'll really infuse all of the flavors. Now, the next one we want to do is finely chopped. So for anyone that tuned in last time, we did an onion. Same thing, just on a little scale. Peel off the skin there. Let's get rid of that. And now, just like we did with the onion, you're chopping it down one way, but not all the way through to the end. You see it's still all intact. And then you can just spin it the other way around and run the knife straight through. You can take your time with it. Practice makes perfect. And there you go, finely sort of chopped. And if you want to go really fine chop on the garlic, you can just use the old rocking action straight over the top like this. And there we have some finely chopped garlic. And the last one I want to do is some crushed garlic, okay, like a garlic paste. Now, way to do this is to grab yourself some salt and just onto your finely chopped garlic, plenty of salt on there, and the salt acts as an abrasive and also draws the moisture out of the garlic, and it's going to help us really break that down. Okay. And just literally use your knife and create a paste. And can you freeze garlic? Yeah, you can freeze garlic. The garlic ice cubes would be a good option. You can see there. Someone's just asking me now, what is my favorite restaurant? Okay, now, that's a big question, that. Favorite restaurant? Oh, do you know what? Just the M&S food hall does it for me. But if it wasn't going to M&S for me dinner, it would definitely be, I'll tell you what, I had the best takeaway in my life last week. So the chef that I trained with, Atul Kochhar, he's a Michelin star Indian chef. He sent me a takeaway from his restaurant Kanishka, and it was just like, well, the best Indian takeaway I've ever had. Unbelievable. But I think I really enjoy to eat Japanese food out. I don't cook a lot of Japanese food or sushi at home, so I think that's such a treat to eat out. But then again, I love small, independent, family-run Italian restaurants. And to be honest, the thing I'm missing most about restaurants is just going out to eat with people, because I think it's that getting together which is the best part of it all. Anyway, back to the garlic. We've got our sort of crushed garlic clove there. We've got our finely sliced. We had our finely chopped. And now I've just made this paste. And what this is perfect for is for sort of marinades and sauces. So if you were doing like a chimichurri sauce to go with a steak, which is like an Argentinian sauce, some garlic, some parsley, some red wine vinegar, oregano, delicious. Or you could even just spread that on a nice bit of toasted bread with some butter. Be really, really good. Okay, that is the garlic done. I'm just reading up on the questions. Are there bones in the chicken, and what would you do with the bones? So the chicken we used, it's really convenient. It's already, it was skinless and boneless. However, if I had the bones, I would make a stock with it. Just boil them down. You could put like a carrot in there. Great way. If you've got any carrots, they're one of the most wasted vegetables in the UK. Put a stick of celery, a carrot, an onion, maybe some herbs, some woody herbs like thyme, something like that. In with the bones, just boil it for maybe an hour or so, skim any of the white sort of foamy scum off the top, and you've just made a delicious chicken stock, so you shouldn't waste any of the bones. And that goes for like a roast chicken as well. The bones can be cooked for that, okay? Any more questions? Ooh, am I meant to use the stalks of herbs like rosemary? Do you know what? I don't use the stalks on rosemary because it's very woody. It's almost like a stick. But what a great way, well, a great thing to do with the stalks of the rosemary is to use them as skewers for kebabs. So if you were doing like a lamb kebab, summer's coming up, we're getting into barbecue season, you can strip off the rosemary, use it for your marinade or whatever you're doing it for, and just pop the cubes of meat onto the stalk of the rosemary, and it's going to get that flavor all the way through the meat. So yeah, I think the woody herbs, don't really use the stalks. Thyme as well, it's a woody sort of stalk, so pick the leaves off. Your soft herbs like parsley, coriander and dill, use the stalks, use the full thing. Any more questions there? What's the difference? I'm just reading this as it's coming in live. What's the difference between light and dark soy? Great question. Okay, so soy, fermented soybean, light soy and dark soy. So dark soy is actually less salty. It has more of the soy taste. Normally it's slightly thicker and it's darker in color. I would use dark soy for things like a chow mein where you want to add color to a dish. So if you were doing chow mein, or you might have bought a chow mein before, and the noodles have like a glossy, like black soy shine to it. That's from the dark soy. The light soy is a saltier taste. Funnily enough, there's actually generally less salt in the light soy, even though it's saltier, and that's because you get less of the soy flavor in it, and that is more of a seasoning. So some dishes call for light soy, some for dark, and some actually a mixture at different stages. So light soy, it's saltier, and it's good for sort of seasoning things as a salt. Dark soy is great for color, and it's also great if you want that soy flavor within the food. Someone asking, what else can I make with leftover rice? Fried rice for me is delicious. And I did a pilaf last week. I did a live cook along here for a Spark and Change event that we did. And I did this sort of Moroccan spiced pilaf where I used leftover rice, leftover veggies, and I literally cooked onions, peppers, aubergines, whatever you've got down in some olive oil. I added some harissa, which is a North African spice paste to it. Cooked the veg down, then I took half of it out and I just layered over the cold rice, and then I put the remainder of the veg on. Drizzle of some yogurt. I used some herbs that were sort of starting to wilt down, chucked them through. I had a lemon, chopped that up, sliced that on, and just cooked it for about 10 minutes until the rice was heated through. And that is a delicious way to use up leftover rice. If you ever do a risotto, you should try and make an arancini. So if you make a ton of risotto and you've got leftover risotto, literally chill it down. All you do is cool it. You can add some extra cheese to it. It will firm up, and you can actually roll that into balls, breadcrumb it, and deep fry it. And that is a delicious way to use up leftover risotto. Val would like to know what to do with leftover spuds. Well, there's loads of stuff you can do. I love to do like a hash with that and fry it. And do you know what? You can't go wrong with bubble and squeak, but get adventurous with it. It doesn't necessarily have to be the classics from your Sunday roast. You could go, right, I've got some garlic, chili, and ginger, some potatoes. I might even have some ham, and I've got some hoisin sauce. You can really use it as a base carbohydrate. So think about things where it might even be rice or whatever. Get the potatoes in there. Or a rosti's a great one. Not necessarily have to, how do I describe this? Grate the potatoes from raw. You can use a potato and just mix it through, pat it into like a patty and make like a giant potato cake. Some bacon on there and a fried egg would be delicious. And gnocchi is another one, which is a fantastic way to do it. So it's an Italian sort of floury light potato dumpling. Now, all you do, your leftover mash, let it go cold, chuck a bit of flour in. You can put an egg in if you need that to help bind it together. Roll it out into a dough ball, roll it into a sausage, chop them up into little pieces about, oh, I don't know, inch or so long. And then you literally drop them into boiling salted water. They'll rise to the top when they're cooked. It'll take about 2 minutes, and just put them in a delicious tomato sauce. M&S Everything sauce is on the shelves now, or is going to hit the shelves. And this is a sauce that's perfect just for adding to all of these sort of leftover dishes. When do I cook the Pak Choy? Okay, let's get on to the Pak Choy. We are going to steam some Pak Choy off. If you've got a steamer, you can do it in the steamer. If you don't have a steamer, you can do it in a frying pan. I'm going to show you how to do that. Get some heat on there. Have a little tidy up. So Pak Choy we are using tonight, but you could use any veg that you like. This is great with broccoli. It's really nice with, well, tender stem broccoli. Broccoli, you could use kale, you could use peas, baby aubergines. Get some heat on there. And then if you've got a steamer, just pop it in your steamer as you do. Let the steam cook it through. I'm just going to put it into a frying pan with a splash of water, and that will just create some steam around it. Okay, let's get the heat on. I'll tell you what, my chicken is starting to smell good already, so we don't need to look at it just yet. But tonight, please do tag me in your pictures. Share what you've cooked, because I just love to see it. Tag me, tag M&S, and I'll share them all on Instagram and whatnot afterwards. Let's get a bit of heat on there. And I'm going to throw this garlic in as well, seeing as we've got it tonight. So we've sliced the garlic. I'm going to do garlic Pak Choy. This is just a thing where you can go, I've got that. I can put it with that. And it's about getting confident with your leftovers and what's in the fridge. So tomorrow night, if you've got bolognese on the menu and there's a rogue, I don't know, aubergine in the fridge, basically chop it up, put it in and get it used. And store in your veg and stuff as well. If you want to store it for maximum sort of longevity, vegetables, keep them in the packaging they come in, put them in the salad drawer. Meat should be stored just on the bottom shelf. That is in case any juice leaked out of the packet. It's not going to drip through your fridge. And stuff like salad in a bag, you want to tightly sort of seal the top if you can. Stops it wilting down and going a bit soggy. And more food waste tips are available on the M&S website. Let's just get our Pak Choy in there. It is Food Action Waste Week this week. So if you visit the M&S website, all of our details of what we've covered tonight and more will be on there. And like I say, it's absolutely baffling that over 9 million tons of food is wasted in the UK, which to me just, it's not acceptable. And there's people out in the world that don't have any food to eat. So we need to be responsible and stop wasting our food. But also for the carbon emissions. Food waste creates a massive impact on the environment. So anything we can do to reduce it, great. I'm going to add in that crushed garlic because we've got it. Just a splash of water goes in. And I'm sort of just going to stir fry it in the water. There's no oil in there, but the steam that's going to be created. Just keep that moving. Okay. And if there are any of our Feed Your Family recipes that you've tried at home, please do let us know. What have you enjoyed? What have been your favourites? Have we at M&S created any new family favourites in your house? I'd love it if there's something that you're doing week on week with the kids or by yourself, whatever. If we've created a new family favourite, that's incredible. So let us know. You can use oyster mushrooms in this. Get adventurous. I love all the different flavours of mushrooms. M&S have a fantastic range of them. So we're starting off with the chestnut. They're great value for money, but stuff like shiitake and oyster mushrooms, fantastic. Let's just keep on cooking that down. We are closing up towards the end of the live cook along. So any questions, keep them coming in before we end for the night. And you can see there already, it's starting to soften down. Ways to cook courgettes is being asked. Now, I've got one here that sounds a bit strange. You cook them slowly and you want them to go really soft. I had this in an amazing Italian restaurant, and you just pop them in a pan with quite a lot of olive oil and garlic and literally 20 minutes or so, and just cook them down and down and down. And you want the lid on, and you season them really generously with salt and pepper. And it is that simple. Olive oil, courgette, salt, pepper, lid on, 20 minutes. And you create this sort of it's almost going down to a puree, and seriously just stirring that through some pasta, spread on some toasted bread, absolutely delicious. Trevor wants to know, can you crisp courgettes and how? Now, I would say the only way to really do it is in a deep fryer, because they've got so much water content in them. Trying to do it in a pan or the oven is going to be really difficult, but you could make a really simple sort of tempura batter, some sparkling water, some plain flour, pinch of salt, and then you can literally just dip shredded courgette in there into hot oil. Be careful, and then when it's golden and crisp, take it out and you've got zucchini frite. Delicious. Plenty of salt on there. That's what they serve in a restaurant, isn't it? It makes you want to go back for more drink. Finley wants to know, Finley would like to know if I have a pet. Do you know what? I don't have a pet. I used to have a couple of cats. Well, I've had a couple of cats in my life. Great question. No, I don't have a pet. One day I think I would like a dog. Okay. That is done. That looks delicious. Can we take that here? Okay, so there's a chap called Jeff who keeps commenting sausages, and we can take that feedback on board for the next one. So if there's anything you want to see me do with my sausages, just let us know. And I'm sure I'll be able to create a delicious recipe with it. I think a lot of us don't know how to handle them properly. Right, I think the chicken is time to come out the oven. So be careful, that's hot. Oh, out we go with the chicken. I tell you what, this smells amazing already. I'll put that on there so we can sort of see inside. Shut the oven up. There we go. And the steam that comes off it, you can see that is beautifully cooked. And all of those juices from the sauce will have now gone inside, down into the rice. And one thing they do in Hong Kong, An optional topping is to actually crack an egg yolk into the middle. And that's something you'll see if you've ever had ramen before. The raw egg yolk on there. And then you actually stir that through, and that fat in the egg yolk creates like a silky, rich, smooth sauce. So if you want to try that tonight, by all means do it. Another thing they do in Hong Kong with their traditional clay pot rice is actually drizzle a soy sauce over the top now. So if you want to add a splash more soy, go for it. And then the only real way to do it is to mix the whole thing together. So you want to combine your rice, and you can see that soy has just gone all the way through. I tell you what, the aromas coming off this are fantastic. And you will notice around the sides, you will start to get a slightly crispy edge. And it's just the safest way to cook it in the oven. We've got that even distribution of heat all the way through. Let's grab my serving plate and then get some plated up. And it's a really substantial family meal, this as well, like super substantial. Any leftovers, get them on your plate for lunch tomorrow. However, I'm thinking you probably won't have any because it's that delicious. And you can see in there as well, the aubergine. I'll grab a bit there. That's where we've put that in instead of chicken. It's held its shape, it's held its size. And if you want to add like some extra chili to this, some chili oil, go for it. Make it your own. I'm going to pop a little bit more chicken on the top. And the mushrooms. A little bit of our steamed Pak Choy. That's a super healthy way to cook your veg. A little bit of that on the side there. And I'm going to go for just a splash of soy sauce over the top. And there you have it. That is, I'd say but that is now our Chinese-style clay pot rice. Another Sparks Live. Let's give that a go. Oh, that, well, you can be the judge. How is it at home? Let us know. I think that's delicious. This recipe is online now. It's in stores on the recipe cards. Look out for more Sparks Live updates as well, because Sparks Live is coming back very, very soon. I'm going to let you go and enjoy your dinner. Thank you all so much for joining in again tonight. I've had a great time, and I will see you on the next Sparks Live. I'm off for my dinner. Have a good one.